Some truths are not hidden because they are lost. They are hidden because they are too powerful to be handled by a world addicted to noise. This is one of them. Long before maps and doctrines claimed to hold the way, Thoth etched a secret into the fabric of light itself, not in books, not in temples, but in the stillness between thoughts. The reverse law. A principle so paradoxical, it threatens everything you've been taught about effort, desire, and seeking. It whispers not of striving, but of surrender, not of chasing, but of becoming the very signal that calls what is yours to you. Before we begin, listen closely. If this truth finds you now, it's not by accident. Let this be your sign. Like this video, subscribe to our channel, and type "I remember" in the comments if your soul already feels the gravity of this forgotten law awakening in your chest. You see, the ancients did not go after what they wanted. They aligned, in the halls of Amenti, beneath the layers of what modern man calls reality. Initiates were taught that movement without resonance was distortion. They were taught that manifestation was not conjuring, but collapsing timelines inward by vibrating at the frequency of the desired outcome. Thoth did not teach how to get more. He taught how to stop vibrating lack. The reverse law is not about abandonment. It is about reversal. It demands the reversal of energy, of will, of seeking. It teaches that all which is chased runs. All which is invited by stillness arrives. You were not born to chase love, wealth, purpose, or peace. You were born as a transmitter, already encoded with the divine frequency that attracts the entire field into coherence with you. But the modern mind, hijacked by noise and seduced by struggle, has been taught to broadcast only scarcity. The more you search, the more the signal becomes distorted. The more you strive, the more the field around you echoes resistance. This is the silent law no one speaks of. This is why your waiting hurts, why your trying feels heavy, why nothing ever feels like enough. The reverse law is dangerous because it dissolves control, and control is the false god of every broken system. When you stop searching, not as resignation, but as remembrance, you enter the 0 point, that still, electric center, where creation bows to coherence, where the wave collapses into form without force. Thoth knew this. That's why he spoke not just in words, but in tones. Why his magic was not taught, it was intoned. The vibrations he used weren't spells. They were signatures, and your soul still knows how to speak them if the noise falls away. Have you noticed that when you stop looking for love, it comes? When you stop needing money, it appears? When you finally release the question, the answer rises uninvited. This is not coincidence. It is the reverse law in motion. It's the sacred dance of yin magnetism, of being instead of becoming, of turning from external effort to internal signature, of ceasing the pursuit and becoming the attractor. And yet, the ego resists. It shouts, "But I must do something." That is the great lie. The something has already been done by your being. The rest is alignment. Imagine now, your breath slows, your thoughts hush, your nervous system uncoils its grip on urgency, and in that stillness, a shift occurs. The field around you begins to respond to your silence as if it were a song, not because you acted, but because you stopped interfering. This is the most radical form of power, not to dominate reality, but to become so clear that reality bends toward you, unforced. This is not laziness. This is sacred magnetism. Thoth called it Sakham Nataru, divine current, the pulse of God through an open vessel. To live this way is to walk backward through the veil, to unlearn urgency, to unbind your worth from what you produce. It is not for the weak. To stop searching in a world built on chasing is to rebel against every layer of programming etched into your cells. But those who do it, who become still and certain and vibrationally sovereign, begin to witness the miraculous. the love that shows up unannounced, the abundance that follows devotion, the wisdom that meets silence. Every sound, every frequency, every chant that has endured time speaks of this reversal. The Vedic Om, the Egyptian Ra, the Sufi Hu. None of them are calls outward. They are inner doorways, resonant bridges that return the seeker to the seat of remembering. You don't chant to get God's attention. You chant to remember that you already are what you seek. And in that remembrance, you become a beacon, not a beggar. Thoth once said, "Man is a star bound to a body." But what he left unwritten was this: the star never runs after the sky. It simply shines, and all heavens arrange around it. This is your reminder. You are not here to chase anything. You are here to become so clear in your field that everything meant for you has no choice but to find you. And so, the secret was never in the effort. It was in the vibration beneath it. The frequency you hold when you are no longer trying to get, only allowing what already was to return. There is an ancient silence between the beats of your heart, a place before sound, before identity, before craving. Thoth called this the seat of origin, the sacred still point, where the universe listens to you instead of the other way around. But you have been taught to speak first, to act first, to plan, strive, manifest, as if the divine doesn't already know your name. The reverse law says this: the one who dares to become still becomes heard. Stillness is not the absence of movement, but the mastery of energetic conversation. Most people beg reality to change with words soaked in fear. But the field does not respond to words. It responds to tone, to the emotional vibration beneath the desire. If your longing is saturated in lack, then lack is what is echoed back. This is why silence becomes powerful. It strips away the performative longing and exposes your true signal. And in that signal, there is no noise, only command. Not from the ego, but from the soul that remembers it, never needed to see. The body itself remembers the reverse law. The breath knows how to return to rhythm when left alone. The heart realigns when worry is released. Your cells tune to healing frequencies when the static of desperation fades. You are not broken. You are interrupted. And every practice that leads you back into stillness, breathwork, chanting, silence, presence, is not adding something new, but undoing the interference. Like removing a veil from the mirror, you are already radiant. You are already magnetic. Thoth's wisdom was encoded in tones, not just texts. His emerald tablets spoke in geometry, but his real teachings were layered into sound. Not the kind of sound you hear, but the kind that rearranges your atoms. He spoke in tones that touched the body of the soul. Every vibration he released was a frequency map home. The reverse law was his master code. It was never written plainly, because the mind cannot understand what only the field can remember. It must be felt. Modern seekers exhaust themselves, asking, how do I attract love, abundance, peace? The answer lives in the reversal of the question. What if you stopped needing to attract and simply became? What if the field only rushes toward those who stop chasing and begin embodying? In the ancient temples, initiates were not taught to go get. They were trained to hold frequency, to hold intention without urgency, to become so vibrationally sovereign that reality had no choice but to align. Even sound, when used correctly, reveals this truth. The chant, Om, does not beg the universe to listen. It affirms that you already are the vibration of the universe. When you sound Om with presence, you're not calling out. You're sinking in. You're remembering. The reverse law shows up in this sacred act. Stillness first, sound second. Being first, doing later. When this order is restored, distortion collapses. Every moment you release control, you give space for the divine algorithm to reveal itself. You are not a signal flare lost in darkness. You are the lighthouse. But you must remember to turn the light on, not by effort, but by resonance. You do not force light. You become clear enough that it shines through you. Energy responds to coherence. Coherence is what happens when the inner and outer are no longer at war. The reverse law aligns your inner tone so deeply that even chaos bows. You're not here to match the noise. You're here to change the frequency of the room by walking into it as silence wrapped in certainty. All your life, you've been taught that worth comes from effort. But Thoth's secret breaks this illusion. Worth is not earned. It is remembered. And what is remembered cannot be taken, only awakened. The reverse law turns the seeker inward and says, now let the world find you, not because you gave up, but because you finally tuned in. Every divine union, every financial blessing, every aligned opportunity, they already exist. They're not waiting to be created, they're waiting to be received. And you receive not by doing more, but by becoming the version of you who no longer resists having it. Let us speak now of the illusion of time, that ancient distortion sewn into the minds of seekers to convince them that what they desire is always somewhere else, someday soon. The reverse law obliterates this illusion. It teaches that time is not the distance between you and your desire, but the lag between your vibration and your remembrance. When your frequency matches the thing you long for, time collapses. The future becomes now, not because you waited, but because you align. Thoth warned his disciples, to chase what is already yours is to announce you do not have it, and in that declaration it slips away. You may not have heard these words, but you've lived them. Every time you felt the tightness of wanting, of trying to manifest love, money, healing, you emitted a frequency of absence. The more you reached, the further it drifted. Not because you failed, but because the field always matches your true signal, not your spoken desires. When you stop searching, you give the field permission to respond differently. You become a still mirror, a clear receiver. The things that were circling your aura, waiting for a point of resonance, suddenly lock in, not through force, but through coherence. This is why those who master silence appear lucky. It's not luck. It's vibrational sovereignty. They have learned to emit rather than seek, to tune their field instead of chase the world. The mystics of every lineage knew this. The yogis chanted not to beg for grace, but to cleanse the static. The Egyptian priests intoned syllables like ka and sa to unlock soul gates. The Sufis spun in circles, not to escape the body, but to still the mind into submission so the heart could sing. All of them practiced the reverse law. All of them chose presence over pursuit. You have been encoded with the same potential. The same sacred architecture lives in your being. But you must deactivate the inherited programs of striving. You must reverse the habit of filling silence with fear. You must become so deeply anchored in the now that your very presence becomes a gravitational pull. This is not fantasy. It is physics of the soul. The zero-point field, that holy realm scientists call the vacuum, is not empty. It is full of everything unmanifest. But only the still, coherent heart can draw from it. The more you grasp, the less access you have. The more you quiet, the more you command. This is not passivity. This is mastery. It is the energy of the divine feminine and the awakened masculine, fused into one presence with purpose, stillness with power. Imagine this. You sit in a room with no distractions, no desires, no reaching. You simply breathe. And as your breath slows, your field softens. Thoughts unravel. Urgency dissolves. And in this sacred pause, the code reactivates. Your original frequency, the one you carried before life taught you to chase, begins to emerge. You remember that the things you ache for were always waiting for your return. not your pursuit. Thoth called this the circle of return. When the initiate completes the cycle of seeking and steps back into inner knowing, the outer world transforms to match. But it requires trust, not in the mind, but in the field, not in logic, but in vibration. And trust cannot be faked. It must be felt in the body like a drumbeat that never falters, even in the unknown. The reverse law is not a rule. It is a frequency, a divine pulse moving backward through the illusion of progress. It does not reward effort. It reveals clarity, and clarity is what moves mountains, not by force, but by natural law. It is the silent magnetism of the one who has nothing to prove and yet draws all things. Your true power is not what you do. It is what you hold. The energy you refuse to leak. The tone you carry into every room, even when you say nothing. You are not here to become louder. You are here to become clearer. And when you do, all things that once felt far will arrive like echoes returning home. There is a frequency beneath the surface of your skin that predates your name, your story, your pain. It is the original tone you were born with, the sacred hum of divine remembrance. The reverse law is not something you learn. It's something you recover. It's what happens when all striving is stripped away, and what remains is the quiet power of one who knows they are already whole. The illusion of self-improvement is one of the deepest traps. Always becoming, always fixing, always healing some imaginary version of you that is not quite ready. But Thoth's secret was not about becoming something more. It was about collapsing back into what you've always been. The magnetic field of your soul doesn't respond to what you think you should be. It responds to what you allow yourself to fully become in stillness. When you cease seeking healing, you make room for wholeness to surface. What the ancient temples understood, and what modern science is just beginning to whisper, is that the body is a tuning fork. Your thoughts shape energy, but your emotions anchor it. This is why gratitude attracts more than goal setting. Why peace manifests faster than pressure. The reverse law turns away from what do I need to do, and instead asks, what do I need to feel so deeply? It transforms my field without a word. You are not meant to hustle your way into divine alignment. That very idea is a distortion, a theft of your natural inheritance. What belongs to you doesn't need to be begged for. It needs to be remembered, and remembrance happens in the quiet. When you walk away from performance, from comparison, from the race, this isn't about doing less. It's about being more of what already pulses beneath the noise. The ancient chants, those syllables whispered by desert winds and carved into stone, were not spells. They were vibrational doorways. A solar current. Eu, the breath of God. Psi, the seat of the soul. They weren't to be spoken loudly. They were meant to be felt in the bones. When you chant these sounds, you are not summoning something outside of you. You are ringing your own bell. And when your inner bell rings, the universe turns to listen. There is a danger in becoming too addicted to the idea of spiritual progress. Many chase healing like they once chased money, lovers, and recognition. But chasing is chasing, no matter how holy the object. The reverse law asks you to stop running in spiritual circles and to sit fully, humbly, powerfully, in the truth of what already lives in you. When you do, you emit a frequency that no longer needs to prove, only to radiate. Energy does not lie. You can speak affirmations with your mouth while your field screams fear. You can write intentions while your nervous system quivers with unworthiness. The field will always mirror your truest tone. This is why so much effort produces so little result, because the vibration underneath is not aligned. But the one who enters stillness, who tunes the heart and body back to its original frequency, becomes irresistible to the quantum field. Thoth knew this. That's why his teachings were never about control. They were about communion, about entering such deep harmony with the divine that reality simply rearranged to match your inner truth. You do not manipulate energy. You harmonize with it, like a flute that doesn't command the wind, but allows breath to become music through surrender. The more you release the grip, the more your hands become open gates. What if all your blessings are already circling, waiting only for you to become vibrationally still enough to receive? The reverse law does not reward the loudest prayer. It responds to the quietest coherence, to the frequency of enoughness, of I am, without needing more. Breathe. Now, right here. Inhale not as a task, but as a return. Feel what it means to let your body soften and your energy uncoil. That is the work. That is the real chant. That breath is more sacred than any ritual. For in that breath, you remember, nothing must be found. You were never separate. You were always the call and the answer, the magnet and the miracle. You are not becoming magnetic. You are remembering that you already. Close your eyes for a moment and listen, not to the sounds around you, but to the rhythm beneath them. That subtle pulse within your chest, that vibration dancing just beneath your skin, that is not your heartbeat alone. It is the sacred rhythm of the universe echoing through you. This is the place where Thoth's secret lives, where the reverse law pulses quietly, waiting to be felt, not understood. And when you feel it, you no longer chase time. You bend it. The truth is this: when you tune your body to presence, your energy begins to send instructions to the field. You do not speak these instructions with words, but with tone, coherence, and embodied certainty. The reverse law is not about waiting. It is about deep alignment. The person who sits in pure vibrational coherence does more with stillness than armies do with effort. The field listens not to force, but to purity. And purity is found not in perfection, but in clarity. Clarity does not come from thinking more. It comes from thinking less, from breathing through your wounds until they soften into wisdom, from feeling the dense emotions you've avoided and letting them move through you like old frequencies breaking apart. This is the silent alchemy of the reverse law, the transmutation of emotion into vibration. When you no longer fear your own energy, your field becomes clean. And in that clean field, life flows again. Your magnetism is not in your action. It is in your resonance. Even your posture changes when you no longer need to be chosen, when you no longer chase. The reverse law lifts your energy upward and inward. You begin to glow without intention. People feel you before you speak. Opportunities arrive before you strategize. Miracles form around you like patterns in sacred geometry. All because you remembered who you are. The ancient schools of initiation taught this with symbols, not syllables. The serpent swallowing its own tail, the still eye in the pyramid, the eternal circle, they were all pointing to the same truth, that what you seek is already within you, orbiting around your field like planets around a sun. But if your center is chaotic, the orbit breaks. The reverse law is the restoration of your center, not through control, but through release. You were taught to climb, but Thoth taught descent, into the self, into the stillness, into the vibrational truth beneath every story. This is the reversal. The one who descends in stillness rises in energy. The one who no longer forces becomes a current, and currents do not seek permission. They shape the entire ocean around them. Look back on your life, and you will see this pattern. The most powerful changes did not come when you were grasping. They came when you were surrendered, open, clear. The love you didn't expect. The breakthrough that arrived when you stopped worrying. The healing that came the moment you accepted the wound. These were not accidents. They were activations of the reverse law. When your inner frequency aligned with what had always been circling your soul. Every time you chant sacred syllables, Om, Hu, Ra-A, you're not calling out. You're calling back. reclaiming pieces of your energy scattered by urgency, sealing your field from distortion. You're not casting spells. You're becoming a spell, a living incantation of balance, beauty, and belonging. And the field cannot ignore that. The future is not something you walk toward. It's something you remember into being. And that remembrance is not intellectual, it's cellular, emotional, energetic. The reverse law reveals that you don't need to force your destiny. You only need to become so vibrationally honest that your destiny can finally find you without resistance. All things you've longed for, peace, love, power, purpose, are not ahead of you. They are orbiting your stillness, waiting for the moment your vibration becomes an invitation instead of a demand. This is the reversal, the divine joke, that the less you try to be something, the more you become it. And so, surrender is not giving up. It is tuning in. And when you are tuned in, there is nothing to chase. There is a portal in your breath that does not lead outward. It leads inward into the temple of tone where the voice of God hums without language. Every inhale is a key. Every exhale is a door swinging open. This is where the reverse law leads you, away from seeking results in the outer world and into the sacred architecture of vibration that has always existed within. The most dangerous truth Thoth ever concealed was not a doctrine, but a frequency, one that could collapse illusions without a fight. When you embody this frequency, the field responds as if creation itself has heard your name. You don't need to ask. You don't even need to plan. You only need to align. In that state of vibrational congruence, time becomes your ally, not your enemy. People say it takes time, but Thoth taught it takes tone. And tone can transcend time, bend it, even dissolve it. Your desires do not live in the future. They live in the resonance you've been postponing. Every time you say, one day, you push it further. But the moment you shift into being fully now, the field must respond. This is the mystery and the mastery of the reverse law. Not to want more, but to be more of what you already are, until reality yields. What most people call manifestation is simply alignment delayed by doubt. They want with their words, but fear with their energy. They visualize light, but breathe chaos. The field doesn't obey what you say. It mirrors what you are. This is why the ancients chanted in caves and silence, not to get, but to strip the distortion, until their field became one with the sacred hum beneath the world. Once that hum is remembered, no goal remains unreachable, because nothing is separate anymore. The secret chambers of the Egyptian temples were not built for worship. They were built for resonance. Stone, geometry, water, breath, all arranged to amplify frequency. Not to teach power, but to restore it. The initiates weren't taught how to pray. They were taught how to become the prayer. They sat in stillness for days, not to empty the mind, but to magnetize the field. And when the field became still, reality bent. This is not religion. This is vibrational law. When you speak from clarity, the universe rearranges. But when you exist in clarity, nothing needs to be said. The reverse law says, become it and it finds you. Embody it and it arrives. Align and it collapses space between you and the thing. There is no effort in this. Only release. Only return. Only the still authority of the one who knows that seeking is the final layer of forgetting. Now listen deeply. If your life feels like a loop of longing, it is not because you are cursed. It is because your field is noisy. You're speaking too loudly with your energy, while refusing to hear the frequency of your true tone. The reverse law invites you to silence, not as escape, but as recalibration. In silence, your soul finally sings, and when it sings, the field listens. Every chant, every sacred word, is a thread back to the tone you carried before you were broken. Hu, the breath of God. Ra, the eye of divine light, OYOM, the sound of the cosmos folding inward. Don't chant to get, chant to remember, chant to release the static so the sacred can flow again. This is how you become the magnet, not by screaming, but by clearing. To live this way is to defy every structure built on effort. It is to rise while sitting, to attract while resting, to receive while radiating. The reverse law is not just a mystical principle. It is your original way of being, buried beneath years of noise and needing. But now you're peeling it back, slowly, gently, remembering not what to do but how to be. And in that being, the field moves. The tone returns. And what you've been searching for begins its journey toward you, not because you asked louder, but because you finally became still enough to let it land. What if the doorway to all you desire has never been locked, only vibrating too far from your current frequency to be seen? This is the mystery the ancients guarded. Not how to create reality, but how to return to the tone that naturally draws it toward you. The reverse law is not a trick or technique. It is a sacred remembering, a vibrational homecoming, a retuning of your field back to the divine hum that holds the blueprint of all things. Every time you rest in silence, your field softens. Every time you release the gripping thought of how, the sacred pulse of now takes its place. And when now is fully inhabited, the walls of separation dissolve. This is not metaphor. It is quantum design. You are not waiting for miracles. Miracles are waiting for your coherence. And coherence arrives when you stop sending mixed signals into the field. In the school of vibration, the ones who graduate are not the loudest chanters or the most disciplined seekers. They are the ones who surrender with depth, who let their breath become holy, who allow their emotions to rise and fall like sacred tides instead of controlling them. The reverse law reveals its grace in this way, not through command, but through communion. You've been taught that you must be specific, plan details, visualize outcomes. But Thoth taught that true magic does not require details. It requires trust, a trust so rooted in your being that the field interprets it as authority. You are not here to convince reality. You are here to embody such clear frequency that the reality meant for you simply returns home. Can you feel it yet? That subtle shift inside your chest, when you stop wanting and start remembering. When your shoulders drop, your jaw softens, and your breath feels less like a task and more like a song. That is coherent. That is the reverse law taking root in your nervous system, your blood, your energy field. And once it roots, everything changes. In ancient rites, before speaking the names of the gods, initiates were told to spend hours in silence, not because the words were dangerous, but because without the right vibration, the words had no power. This is true of your desires too. You must become a sacred space before the sacred can enter. The reverse law teaches, prepare your field, not your script. If your field is clean, your words are spells. If your field is unclear, your words dissolve in static. The tone of your life is shaped by what you allow yourself to hold, and you hold more when you try less. You become magnetic, not by accumulating, but by attuning, by stripping away the performative energy that says, I'm not enough unless I chase. That is the lie. You are enough because you stop chasing, because you remember your frequency was never incomplete. Even the stars obey this law. They do not move to be seen. They remain still in the night sky, radiant and constant, and the eyes of the world turn toward them in reverence. The moon does not beg the ocean. It simply pulls by being. You too were designed to pull reality toward you, not through force, but through frequency, through remembrance. The reverse law does not ask you to wait longer. It asks you to be clearer, to strip your energy of noise, to live in such vibrational honesty that what belongs to you cannot mistake you. This is the end of seeking, the end of proving, the beginning of embodiment. You are not a seeker anymore. You are the signal, and when you become the signal, life becomes the response. Now breathe, soul of light. Not as someone trying to heal, fix, or reach, but as one who already holds the vibration of wholeness. Let that breath rise through you like a memory returning home. Because that's what this is, a return. Not to a place, but to a frequency, the one you carried before fear rewrote your song, before effort became your rhythm, before the world taught you to run. The reverse law has always waited for your stillness. It could never be forced into view. It could only be revealed when your field became quiet enough to remember its original pulse. And now, here you are, not at the beginning of a search, but at the end of forgetting. The moment you stop looking outward, the veil thins, and the field moves. Feel this deeply. You were never meant to manifest your life by wrestling the fabric of reality. You were meant to hew your truth into being, to sit in such unapologetic coherence that the quantum field has no choice but to rearrange in your favor. This is the true alchemy. Not gold from lead, but presence from panic, stillness from striving, harmony from noise. So how do you sustain it? How do you remain in the vibration of the reverse law, in a world that screams, go faster, try harder, do more? You remember, daily, gently, moment to moment. You anchor into silence with breath. You return to tone with sacred syllables, even whispered. You let go before you grip. You listen before you act. You feel before you decide. You reclaim the rhythm of your divine design. Let your space reflect your field. Create moments of emptiness in your day, not to be filled, but to be felt. Let music guide you, not distract you. Let your body become a vessel for vibration, not a container for stress. And when the world around you moves in chaos, return to your inner home. That is your home. That is your power. If you remember nothing else, remember this. You are not a chaser of miracles. You are a conductor of them. The universe listens not to how loud you speak, but to how clearly you vibrate. The more you become what you seek, the faster what you seek becomes you. This is the reverse law, hidden, sacred, dangerous to those who need control, but holy to those who choose trust. The one who remembers their vibration never begs for reality to change. They create it.